Todd, how you doing, buddy?
Hey Mo, right on, man. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure, man.
I'm looking forward to doing this.
Me too.
How are you handling COVID, man? We're like a year in. At this point, we're pretty much a year.
As good as anyone else, to be honest. Are we recording? Is this it? Do you want me to start going, or are we
going, man? Yep.
All right. Yeah, I got to be honest. 2020 was a good year for me. I mean, I did all right. Income was still in, had a roof over my head, gained a lot of weight because I stopped working out, I guess.
Right.
But, the media stuff blew up. And so got my gig with CKNW, got my gig with Vancouver is Awesome. When it came to the podcast, my own podcast, This Is VANCOLOUR, I was the only person that got one-on-one 30 minutes with the Premier John Horgan. So I think that says something to the growth of the podcast. So things were blowing up. But just on a personal level, I think it's a coaster, right?
Don't forget to talk to Mo Buzz just now. That's crazy. So who's booking these guests for you? Are you just like me, where you're grinding? You're like everything. You're the host,
just
you're
me,
the producer, you're everything. Janitor.
Yeah, learning on the spot, not a professional like you. And I gotta say, it's actually it's surreal talking to you, because I told you ahead of time, but you were a big staple of my life, man. Like SFU, I would drive home from SFU to North Van from 2003 to 2007. And then a couple years after that for my master's degree. And I'd hear you every day in the afternoon.
Right.
So to be sitting here talking to you, it's a trip. And it's really
I know, man. It's like almost like close your eyes for a second. You got Todd Hancock on radio, right? Yeah, it's weird. It's weird to, you say, and thank you, man. I'm humbled. It's really been a grind for me, despite, I have a fair amount of experience in the industry. Tomorrow, I've been on air for 7 years. Tomorrow, give me a mic and I'll fucking crush it.
Yeah.
You don't lose that skill, especially after doing it for 20 years or whatever, but it's been a grind, man, despite having that, where people know me in the city, they know me in the industry. I still have to fucking fight hard, dude, to get like so many people are, you must have like people throwing them at you to get interviews. Like, oh man, I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, like, it's tough, and I hear that from so many people who are like household names they're still grinding, and you're just like, you're grinding. Like, what do you makes sense? I mean, I know I've heard that you're doing very well. But I'm curious, do you have any inclination to ever go back into sort of terrestrial? Is it terrestrial?
Terrestrial? Yeah. I mean, ultimately that's probably the game plan. The end game for me would be probably to move, up to the Okanagan, maybe do like a Saturday, Sunday, or like a couple, I don't know. I mean, it's going to have to be part-time. When I move up there, I kind of want to retire, and, and it's hard for me to like bag on radio because, CFOX made it so I have the life that I have today.
Sure.
Where I own my house in Vancouver, almost outright own a house in Vancouver. It's insane.
Yeah.
To sell that, to move to the Okanagan, suddenly you've got like, I don't know, 500 grand in the bank. Like really, you own your place there. Like, what more could you need? Right. So for me, I think it would just be a matter of like, to answer the question, it's like, I think that's the sunset of my career, is like to be a fucking badass afternoon guy on the weekends. Like I'm going to have tons of great guests, and I'm going to make it a really good major market show in Penticton.
Yeah. And I'm not bagging on radio. I'm just saying it's a tough grind, and it's an interesting grind. I did some fill in for CKNW, like Sunday mornings where, they had a listener base still, but it's this crazy race against the clock that I was not used to. I'm used to like, getting relaxed and
at your own pace. And it's different, right? It's very like, for me, I try to do, when I do like the intros to get to these bits of, cause my podcast it's 3 guests a week, and there's a bunch of music and there's features, and, it's kind of like a mini radio show. Cause that's
exactly,
that was my knowledge, right? So I best be doing what I'm good at. So for me, I always try my best to not redo those transition parts, the intros, the back sell of the song. Like I try to make it like it's radio,
Yeah. You always got to say what time it is. And if it's Sunday morning, how's your Sunday morning? And here's the weather. It's 1 degree outside. You got to throw in those lines that I was not used to at all. So it's a different beast, right? Like, I think people think it's the same, and there's obviously a lot of overlap, but the way you're on the clock on the radio is way different.
Yeah. Cause I mean, people are like, they're appointment tuning you. They're like, yeah, I want to hear Mo, and I want to hear This Is the VANCOLOUR Podcast. I want to hear what he's up to and his take on things. Whereas radio is like, I need to get somewhere. I need entertainment for 15, 20 minutes, half hour at the most kind of thing, especially here. And like for us as entertainers, you and I for podcasting is different. It's just train of thought conversation. Where radio, you're like, how can I hook them to make them listen for another 10 minutes?
Yeah.
What I mean? Like there's a band
to get through that ad break, right?
Yeah. Like, a band from Calabasas, California, they're playing the main stage Lollapalooza next year. We'll play their latest song next.
Yeah.
Where you're like engaging with that. Like, what are they talking about? Or, I got a great podcast. It's going to blow your mind. It's about something that happened with Trudeau, and it's those how do you grab somebody and pull them along? We don't really need to do that.
No, I think we need to do that in like I try to do that within the first 5 minutes, if not 15 minutes. I think if someone listens to a podcast and they're not hooked within the first 5 minutes, it's tough. But once you get that over that little hump, then they're kind of in. You can take them on the ride you want to take them on. Yeah. But it is getting that engagement within the first
right away, pretty much. Yeah. And so have you changed much in your game plan of like, launching the podcast from that point to today? Has there been much of a change, or?
That's a good question. I mean, I guess I've been working with mainstream outlets a lot more, so that's had to change a little bit. I've just always been evolving my strategy. I always find conversation is a bit of a puzzle that you're trying to solve, and it's also a bit of a hypnosis, right? And Zoom has been great because it's allowed me to have a lot of big guests, like I said, the premier, but other big guests as well. But I love that in-person chat.
Oh, it's
and
the best.
I know for me, the best episodes I've ever done have always been when it's over. Was that an hour? And I go, I was actually 90 minutes. And they're like, oh my God, the time flew by.
I know.
Right. And so I know when the guest feels that, then it's going to be pretty amazing.
Boy, it just sometimes they fly by, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the way it is. That's great. Congrats, man, on all the success. It's
that means a lot coming from you. Thank you.
It's amazing to watch. Would it be fair to say that you're a fairly political person?
Yeah, I think so. I've always kind of wavered in terms of how engaged I am politically, but that's my master's degree. I've worked for, I wouldn't say work. I've certainly been a part of political campaigns in the past, and I've always had an interest in it. And in terms of ideology, I'm kind of one of those guys that's attracted to the person as opposed to the brand or the party. So if I can really trust you as a candidate, I might disagree with you on some stuff, but I'll probably end up voting for you.
Have you always been into politics, even like as a grade 6, grade 7, grade 8? Like,
I think so. Yeah. I've always had some interest in it. And again, you don't know that much when you're in elementary school, but the more I get into it, the more I know I don't know anything. But I also have an appreciation for how it works and what I like and the trends that I see. And, I think we're all political animals to some degree. The problem is that we're so disengaged with politics. And I think that's the fault of the politicians. I think for a long time, we've had this very well-crafted, slick politician that comes out, promises you the world, and then you as Joe Average doesn't see any changes. And I think people are kind of tired of that. And what they want is someone with a little texture, someone who's a little rough around the edges, because that's life, that's normal. And they want someone who will deliver on what they say. And so I look at a guy like Brad West, who is the mayor of Port Coquitlam. He recently just launched this program where the city of Port Coquitlam will pick up your junk. It's a fridge, it's a couch, whatever, just throw it out on garbage day and they will pick it up. And the people of Port Coquitlam lost their minds in terms of how much they love this.
Yeah.
Right. And so he's not out there trying to change the world, or he's not using these like big concept things. He's like, okay, what's going to help people of Port Coquitlam? And he does that. Another big thing that he did, I'm a big fan of his. Another big thing that he did was drinking in parks. So there's seven designated parks in Poco where you can drink alcohol as an adult. And as long as you're not being disruptive, it's all good.
Right.
And kind of one of the first jurisdictions to do that. I mean, it's so common sense. It's gone off without a hitch.
As it should be.
And people love him for it, right?
Yeah.
Because he's thinking in terms of people, not in terms of like these high concept things, which might only affect certain industries or certain sectors of life.
Yeah. I think I saw, it wasn't on the Daily Hive, that they're thinking of putting in booze into like 7-Elevens and stuff. It's like, yeah, of course they should be. That should always be there. Like, what's
when you go traveling and you see most of the world,
so we're gonna catch up to the rest of the world. That's amazing, right? Like,
and it's little stuff like that matters. And again, it might not be the most substantial stuff, but it's stuff like that gets you on board with a personality and goes like, oh, this guy understands my life. This guy understands
he gets me. Yeah. Is Canada ready for Aaron O'Toole?
I had really high expectations for him, and he's letting me down. And I'm not a conservative. I lean center, but I'm kind of one of those disenfranchised guys with Justin Trudeau. I think with O'Toole, if he came in, talked about government corruption, China, talked to sort of the working man, I think that would have been a successful strategy. He's getting really caught up in this Trumpian culture war stuff, and I don't know how well that resonates with people. Like, I don't know if people care about John A. McDonald statues being pulled down and becoming this huge talking point. People are going about their lives and they're trying to make ends meet, and they see things happening. I mean, you look at money laundering or foreign buyers of Vancouver real estate, they look at those things and those are things that are concerning them. It's housing, it's healthcare. And so I think every politician has to speak to those instead of getting trapped in this like Twitter-like insult fest that Aaron O'Toole has found himself in.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy, right? And it very much resembles Trump. And like, I don't know, man, I'm so... Like I was tapping at the end of the 4 years. I was tapping, man. Like, fuck, I'm done, dude.
And so, and you know what? Some of it, I think it's a balance, right? Like, you want to be a straight shooter, but you don't want to go over the top. We don't want to get into the pro wrestling promo territory, but we do want people that talk straight with us and don't bullshit us. Right. So you can be that character and you can maybe insult people here and there. But when it gets over the top, when it's just all about dunking on the other guy, I think there's a lot of people that just kind of get bored with it, right? Mm-hmm. And at some point, even people who love it are going to say, okay, well, what have you done for me in the past?
Right. Except for make me laugh.
Yeah.
You mentioned Horgan, a huge guest. Who are some of your guests that you've interviewed where they've either like surprised you or just kind of, I don't know, memorable interviews? Like, who are some of the people where you're like, man, I can't believe that was a great interview, or I can't believe I got that person on?
Yeah. Weirdly, like it's weird to say now, but like I'm friends with Tamara Taggart, and she's been on 3 times now. And it was really the second time that she was on. The first time she was running for office, but the second time she was on, I think we really clicked. Right. And she even got a little emotional on the show, and we just got really personal and dug into some stuff about her career and how she views the culture and the industry in general. So that one she will always be a friend of mine, and those episodes will always be very dear to my heart. Some people will surprise you. I recently had a guest on, Dr. Amanda Watson, a professor at SFU, and her topic her subject area is working moms. And so you would think about me, what do I know about working moms? Not much. I'm a single guy. And
some of them are hot.
I'm dating a mom right now, by the way. That's my girlfriend, so I shouldn't say I don't know anything about.
I'm fucking around, of course. But yeah.
I shouldn't say I don't know anything about working moms. Yeah. But we had this amazing chat, and she turned me onto this idea of how childcare is the biggest thing we could possibly do as a society and how it affects all these other layers of society. And I always saw childcare as like a cost savings thing for parents, as opposed to like this monumental economic investment we can do. And we did this episode. It was so magic, but I knew she was a little low profile. So I threw it out to a few people, and I threw it out to a few contacts that I know. And I go, hey, listen to the first 15 minutes. If you don't like it, turn it off. But if you do like it, can you help me push it? And weirdly enough, it came across the premier's desk, and he's pushing it on Twitter, and he's saying everyone should listen to this.
Wow.
So there've been moments like that, which you don't expect much, and it ends up being magic. A lot of episodes too, and they're not all heavy. I've had one of your previous colleagues, Karis Hogg, on, and I think
a
great chat about,
she's so awesome,
everything. Hey? She's amazing. Yeah, one of my faves for sure.
Yeah.
And it's just about connecting with someone on a human level, and my strategy is always, what are they passionate about, what am I passionate about, and just trying to get that link. And once you get that link, I mean, two people can have quite a interesting conversation.
Oh yeah, you can really get into the rabbit hole if you kind of really pick up a topic and run with it.
Yeah. And it's a two-way street, right? Like, you got to be passionate about it, and of course they've got to be passionate about it.
Right.
If you're asking them questions that they don't really care about, it's going to be a dud. And even if you yourself are trying to fake it, I think it doesn't come off the same way.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. Right on. So do you think that you'll stay in radio too, or?
I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm kind of like you. I would love, my goal, I think, is to get like a weekend show.
Right.
And do that. But I understand that it's much different than the podcast, right? So I don't actually know. I just like being a voice in the city. Right now with CKNW, I'm just doing a weekly commentary for them. And, so I like calling out bullshit. I like annoying people who are rich and powerful. And
who doesn't like that, right?
They deserve it. They
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know what the game plan is, but I think just taking it step by step. And I've always said for the podcast, as long as I'm still enjoying doing it, I'm going to do it.
Right.
There comes a day where it's starting to feel like, because this was a passion project, and it is a passion project. Yep. So if there ever comes a day where I'm just kind of bored with it, I got a day job. I do well for myself. I can walk away.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Like, for me, obviously it's my passion, but like, it wasn't a passion project. It was like, holy fuck, I can't believe I just got let go.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening? Really? Dude, I was crushing in the ratings, man. It wasn't that at all. It was just make too much money, bro.
It's
like,
sad.
Well, yeah, but I also was like headhunted, and you guys bumped my wages up as it's happening.
Yeah.
So like, you could have just let me go, right?
Anyway, when I look at, there's so much talent in this city that's either underemployed or just not employed by the big stations, and it really, it depresses me because I'm just like, if you're not on the radio, then how would I ever be on the radio? Or just knowing that it's a tough gig, right? And the people that are in it, they have to fight and scrap. And I think sometimes, since I'm an outsider and I've come in this unconventional way, I've always just wanted to collaborate with people and chat with people and figure out ways that we can build something new, as opposed to looking at a finite pie and me taking something away. I want to build something on top of something. Mm-hmm. And I think initially there was maybe a little bit of hesitation from people in mainstream outlets, thinking that I'm coming after them or whatever. Right. But I think as time went by, you get a little more acceptance. But at the end of the day, like you're saying, it's tough. I mean, Karis was let go recently as well, and I'm just like, holy shit! She was fantastic. She's
hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like kind of the perfect. And I look at you the same way, like kind of that perfect rock radio host that you want, and it's like, well, it's right there. Why aren't they on the radio?
Right. Well, for me, it was money basically, and then I had enough friends that were like, do you really need to go back to radio?
Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, like that's what I know how to do. Like, start a podcast. Well, how am I going to make money with that? Like, dude, go talk to like all the businesses that you've like emceed things for, the owner, the GM, like, somebody that controls the purse strings, and don't go overboard with what you want out of them. If you say you want $5,000, well, they're going to laugh you out the door. If you want 500, maybe they'll talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then from there, it was like, dude, man, with this BCIT gig, because I'm an instructor at the Radio Arts and Entertainment, right? This is my 3rd year full time, 5 years,
nice.
5 years there now. But the first year was just a couple days a week. They were like, can you come and just kind of be a presence, mark some assignments, and just, like, dude, you're like a 20-year radio vet that has this podcast that's still going after 4 years. Like, how are you pulling it off?
Yeah.
And
no, it's impressive what you've built. And it's, the other thing that bums me out about the big outlets is like media is being consumed more than ever. But because of the Facebook ad revenue and the Google ad revenue, it's like there's just money being sucked out of it. When you would think that newspapers are being read more than ever, even radio is being listened to more than ever, but it's just advertisers want to go and get that pinpoint advertising from digital media that they get. And that's it's hard to sway them away from that, which sucks. And I think we're starting to see it in Australia where, I think the government has to step in and start collecting revenue from these guys because they don't really contribute, like your local paper. Think about that, like how important that is. So much local journalism comes from these little local papers, and they're falling by the wayside. And when you start losing those little stories, you start losing the stories that then get filtered out to the bigger papers. And so, I've heard this said by a lot of people that, the industry's in flux. And
they've been saying that for like
we make it out to the other side
years, man. Like,
but I hope we make it out to the other side where local personalities are still a thing. Because I think there's always a demand for local personalities.
There has to be. That's the only way that radio will survive, is if they bob and weave with the times.
Yeah.
Like literally, in my opinion, there's like 3 things that, like, rock radio or like pop radio, country and all that, not talk radio, everything but talk radio. They need to like support their indie scene. They need to support the bands that are where they are. 1, they need to give control back to their jocks to be able to, add a song or change a song. That you just had an awesome call come in and the guy ends it with, "Oh, and I want to hear Tragically Hip, Looking for a Place to Happen." Oh, okay. Thanks, man. Thanks for the call. You can't do it as a jock, even though it's just wrapped up that bit ever so.
Yeah.
It's just the perfect song to play. And then you get into fucking Offspring Self-Esteem. You're like, thanks for the call, Dave. Like that's the other thing. And then the third thing is, oh fuck, I can't remember the third. Maybe it's just 2. There's just 2 things.
Oh, but what you're saying is it overlaps with talk radio, right? So when you're talking about the indie music scene, okay, talk radio is not focused on music, but talk radio is talking about local issues.
Yeah.
Right? So, it's not like you're going to watch CBC National and learn everything what's going on in BC or Vancouver City Hall or your own community, right? So you're tapping into local issues. It's got to stay local. And then the second thing I think what you're talking about is sort of that personal touch and that interactivity that you get from talking about local issues. So that comes in with regards to the host's personality. They were able to chit chat with them. Callers can call in, you chit chat. And then if a caller says something, the host then starts talking about it even for 30 seconds or a minute. Right. As opposed to just moving on to the next thing. And, I think when I look at CKNW, they do that extremely well, and they have really good personalities there.
They've always done it.
But I think it's just recognizing like there will always be a demand for that local personality, for that guy who's in your city or girl that's in your city, and you want to listen to them. And whether it changes with the technology or whatever it is, that live, instantaneous connection that people have watching and listening to something, I think will always be there.
Mm-hmm. And we're talking about creating content. That's literally what our lives are. when you're not creating stuff, what are you watching? Like, what are you binge watching personally?
I have no time for binge watching TV, to be honest. But what I did get into And thankfully I don't have Amazon Prime. My girlfriend does, so it's at her place.
Yeah.
But I've started to watch old unsolved mysteries.
Okay, yeah.
So it's on Amazon Prime. Because I saw the new Netflix series and I was like, this show's amazing.
Yeah.
And then working through all these unsolved mysteries from the 80s, which is really great.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I just don't have I mean, I got a day job on top of this. I still try to work out where I can. It's tough to get into a show. It's tough to binge watch something, I find.
Yeah. So how about hockey? Like, will you watch a whole Canucks
I'm
game,
more of
I'm
more of a UFC guy. I used to be a
UFC
hockey
guy. Okay. So what did you think of the I was hoping you were, because that's another, I mean, I love watching the fights, right?
Yeah.
What did you think going into the Poirier McGregor 2? Who did you think, and were you surprised at what happened?
It's going to sound hokey for me to say, oh, I kind of thought Poirier might win, but that's kind of what I thought. He just looked leaning sharper.
That way too, man. Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those. It felt like the way that his trajectory through that league, man, was like impressive. After that loss to McGregor, 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, and the thing was, it didn't. And it's hard to quantify this, but it's like it didn't feel like a Conor fight. It felt like, even before it happened, like the lead up felt like it was a Poirier fight. Like it was, here's Poirier's, destiny to beat this guy that really humiliated him the first time.
Right. And it was weird, wasn't it? That McGregor didn't shit talk. Like
he didn't shit talk him. Yeah.
Any shit talking. It's like, where is McGregor? Where's the guy that throws the garbage can at a bus? Not that you need to go that far, but like, where's that guy?
I wonder if his heart's in it anymore, to be honest.
Don't think so. Like, dude,
he's talking about boxing. He's talking about boxing Logan Paul or something.
Why?
Like,
dude, why?
Just money at this point.
Why? Is that like really?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like,
I don't know.
I mean, what would you need somebody to pay you for you to never be ever in the spotlight again? Ever. Like ever, dude. You fucking pay me $2 million and you'd never hear from Todd Hancock or the Toddcast ever. I think he wants to be in the spotlight, but he doesn't want to do the work. It has to be that, dude. Like, what did he make off the Mayweather fight alone?
Oh, something way more than he ever made in the UFC.
Right. And then his proper whiskey that he's got as well. I'm sure that's just bankrolling him big time. Like he needs to be in the spotlight.
I hope so, and we'll see what happens. Maybe it motivates him to get back into it. I wonder if his time is done. I wonder if that time of being a perennial contender is over, and he's just going to take fights with other big names.
Might be.
Yeah. The one I'm looking forward to is Jon Jones getting into heavyweight. This is what I want to see. I mean, he's had those little chicken legs for so long. Yeah. I want to see him bulk up, and and that's tough. That is legitimately a tough jump from 205 to I mean, these guys are 265, right? But like him versus Francis, like that, I don't care how skilled you are. If that guy hits you, you're done. It's over. Yeah,
I love Bones. Man, it's so disappointing though. Hey, with all the the drug problems that he was having, like he was at the top of his game, but then you start to be like, well, he's also on performance enhancing drugs, like. I don't know, man.
I think
I might be lost.
He's lost years of his career, right?
Big time.
And even the last couple outings he had at light heavyweight, he won, but like, did he win? It wasn't the same Jones. Right. So I hope he has this revival at heavyweight, and I hope it's not one of those careers like a Mike Tyson where you wonder, if he was on the steady track the whole time, what that could have been like. But I mean, the guy's naturally talented. I think if he sets his mind to it and focuses, he's a beast. But hopefully, he keeps saying he's grown up, and then he keeps screwing up. Like it's hard to have faith in him,
just
right?
Keep giving you chance after chance, man. You can't. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
How about like comic book movies and all that? You ever get into those?
No. The most I'm into, I love a live show. And so even if you take me to a Canucks game and I haven't been following it, or a Lions game, this is all pre-COVID, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm super into live sports. I'm into live shows, even bands I've never heard of.
Yeah.
There's always a magic when you get a bunch of people together in a crowd and the band's great. Stand-up comedy is more my thing. That's sort of the entertainment that I follow, I guess. But again, that's another scene that's just being decimated with COVID.
Dude, it's brutal, man.
Yeah,
it's brutal across the country. Like 30% of small venues, like a Red Room, Railway, those smaller size rooms, 200, 300 people, they're gone, like just gone.
Yeah, and I worry about that, because you look at Vancouver's comedy scene, and I'm sure the music scene is like this as well, but these smaller venues are the training grounds for the people you see at the bigger stages.
Yeah.
Right? You need that ecosystem. And it all starts from those smaller rooms. I mean, for comedy, it starts with rooms where there's literally 20 people.
Like 20 people. And that's the same for bands too, though. Like you can't, like if you only bring in 20, 50 people, if you bring that many to a 500 seat room, it looks empty.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but that's how you start out, right?
Yeah.
And again, sometimes it's garbage, but sometimes it's magic in those 20 people rooms.
Right.
And so it'll be interesting to see what Vancouver looks like post-COVID. I'm just, as a comedy fan, I'm quite worried, and I have a lot of friends who are in comedy. I'm quite worried for that scene, because I know everyone, even some of the guys like an Ivan Decker, who has like a Juno Award now for Best Comedy Album, they need those small rooms to work on their material. They're not going to headline Yuck Yucks with unproven material. The unproven material gets practiced in these smaller rooms. And so if these guys don't have that ecosystem, you might see a lot of migration to Toronto or even the United States if they can. Somewhere. It's a tough process, but they'll leave. And people talk about Vancouver being a fun city or no fun city, and it's all an ecosystem. It's not just the big club or the big restaurant on the beach. It's all these little venues that make a city cool and awesome. Right. And I hope that whether it's the city or the province, when we start looking at rebuilding, we do, obviously health and safety and getting people food on table is of the utmost priority. But I think when we look at urban planning, we have to start looking at these smaller venues and are they supported? Otherwise, the whole city is just going to be Cactus Club and Earls. And no offense to them, but they belong in the ecosystem just as anyone else. But when it's all homogenous, it's not fun.
Right. It's not good for the scene. It's not good for the scene. Do you know that you'd mentioned Ivan Decker?
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the stand-up comics that I had for when I got married. I got married in Mexico.
Oh yeah. Okay.
It was like 20 people, but it was like literally my buddy Brad was the only friend. And it was just like my mom and my wife Jessica's parents and grandparents, couple uncles came, and that's it.
Okay, cool.
It's one of those things. But and I rented, why am I blanking on the name? Kitty Corner to the Shark Club downtown. It's now Brown's Social.
Oh yeah.
Across from the QE Theater there.
What was that before Brown? Before Brown's, you're saying?
Yeah, before Brown's. It was like, why am I blanking on the name of that place? Super small place.
Yeah, I can't remember.
It has something to do with like the industry, radio.
Oh,
anyway,
yeah.
I had a I just threw a bash there basically and got like a bunch of local bands. Art of Dying.
Nice.
I think Mariana's Trench may have played.
Oh yeah, cool.
Murray Atkinson, but then I got a bunch of Greg Kettner. I don't know if you know Greg.
Okay.
Greg's kind of the guy that grabbed Ivan and a couple other guys. And dude, that was such a fucking rad night. And that was back in 2006. And Ivan now, man, is like you say, the kid is absolutely killing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing him in We ended up becoming Yeah, you know what? It would have been 2006 because that's when Facebook's happened, and it was one of those things where like I saw him at a club and like added him on Facebook, and
It's hilarious.
He was throwing me tickets for a couple of years, and then I ended up interviewing him, and we ended up chatting, and it was like so weird that that's the case. But even Ivan's moved out to LA. I think he outgrew the scene. I don't think he left because the scene was getting smaller. I think he just needed to get to that next level.
Get bigger. Yeah. What was your first concert?
My first concert. Oh man. It was in high school. I remember it now. It was an all ages Swollen Members show.
Nice, okay.
It was in the middle of the day at the Commodore. So it was all dark in the Commodore. And I remember actually leaving now when it was like bright. And I was a big Swollen Members fan back in the day.
Yeah, same.
And that was one of my first for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I've had Mad Child on it was a couple of years ago, I guess now.
He's still doing his thing. He's
still doing it. Yeah. And I was going to talk to those guys to maybe try to get them to do a podcast, intimate and interactive show where I, host from stage and get them to play. And
cool.
It was right before COVID started. I mean, I had some fucking amazing shows in the barrel. And then, man, just been like,
how have you adapted?
What a crazy year. Like, dude, without BCIT, I would be fucked. Serious, man. Like, I mean, it would be rough.
Weren't you supposed to teach at On the Mic studio? Because that's my home. That's where I record out of.
Yeah. I had that all sorted out with Michael. Yeah. And then I got offered full time at BCIT plus this and, 2 kids and a wife. And it was just, I just said, like, the answer is not no. It's just like, not right now. Like I need to kind of get a time. I got to understand the time I'm working with right now to be able to mess with my extra free time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. That was another place. I mean, so On the Mic studio, voiceover training school, basically. And I think they wanted to start a podcast class. And I remember when the pandemic hit, I was freaking out because they pulled all the equipment out of there and they said, we're not doing classes. And I'm like, how do I record podcasts? Because I was using their studio. Right. And, we ended up, we ended up coming up with an agreement and a deal, and they've been really kind to me. But at least, we're in a stage where after a year, most of us are making plans or can see how we get through even another year. I think at the start, if you remember March last year in April, we didn't know what was going to happen. We didn't even know how serious this was.
I was so scared, man. I'll be honest. Yeah. I was scared in like a year ago.
Yeah, it was scary. I mean, everything shut. I remember I took a friend to a movie for her birthday on like one of those weekends, and literally the next day or a few days later, everything was shut down.
Yeah,
like everything. And I guess I was not one of those people that saw it that seriously at the start. And I think they did a good job. But I remember we didn't know how this affected anyone, right? Like, it's still bad. And I think all the measures are great. And maybe we should have even done a few measures, but like, we didn't know if this killed you instantaneously or who it affected, and did it affect kids? I mean, there was that real panic unknown. And at least we're done with that. We can criticize how the vaccines are being rolled out, but hopefully we just got another year to grind out and then start to go back to some normalcy. But I think that's going to be the big question, is how much will it look like pre-pandemic? How much will life look like pre-pandemic?
I think it's going to take a bit of time, but eventually we'll get there. I don't think it's going to be right away. Even
do you think more people will work from home though?
I was just going to say, I think that one of the silver linings, I mean, obviously right now the silver lining for people that have kids and stuff is you get to see them more often. There's more family. It's like, it's a bit jarring to be at home all the time with them, but at least for me, I've been working from home for the podcast, of course, all the time.
Yeah.
But BCIT since like last March. I, like you, right at the very beginning, I was over in Tofino.
Yeah.
And it was like, holy fuck, what is happening with to the world right now, right? And by the end of we got there, on a Tuesday, and we were there for like a week. And by like the Thursday or Friday, they were like, we're not cleaning your places anymore. Here's your shit. And, see you later. We're not taking any more bookings. And see you later. Then when we got back, it was like, holy crap. And then I got like the BCIT. They're like, yeah, we're not working at SE10 out in Burnaby at the big building there. And then we get the email from like the head of whatever from BCIT and like, hey, we're probably not going to be till September of 2021. So like batten down the hatches and get ready. And now it's like, are we even going to be able to get in by then?
Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Dude, I read something. I can't remember. I wish I remembered the website, but it was something where they were interviewing the former CEO of Live Nation UK.
Okay.
And they were basically saying like, are you excited about all these Pearl Jam and like, Rage Against the Machine may fire up their tour again and, the Chili Peppers and Rolling Stones and blah, blah. The guy's like, really? Those will be postponed or canceled and moved until like, 2022 spring at the earliest. Like we have, like you say, we're a year. We still have one more year of what we just did.
Yeah. And man, you know what? I miss that communal experience. I miss the big festivals, even if it's a food truck festival. I just miss all these people being together. I miss parties, and I don't mean huge ragers, but even just 12 people, 10 people. Yeah,
man, just hanging with your buddies.
It takes a toll on you, and it's the other weekend it was Family Day weekend, and Brianna, my girlfriend, looked at me and she was like, "Oh, it's Family Day. It's a long weekend." And I had that moment of excitement where I was like, "Oh, long week." And then it's like, "Oh yeah, but we're just going to do the same shit because there's nothing to do. There's nothing else to do." Right?
Yeah.
You say, "Oh yeah, you go for a walk or you try a new restaurant, you try some takeout." We've been doing that all year. And I think I find actually people are getting antsy. People are really getting very upset. I'm talking to, just when I talk to people on the phone or friends of mine, I just find like there's a high level of anxiety. I think there was like this hope and optimism at the start of the year because of the vaccine announcements. And now people are just over it. And, hopefully everyone is just able to push through for however long it'll take. But I'm starting to get the feeling that people are really pent up at this time.
Done.
Yeah.
I'm so done, man.
Right?
So done.
And you know what? For me, it sucks because so now I'm in media and I'm doing all this stuff. I would love to meet people in person. Like I would love to have a beer or coffee with you. I have so many colleagues now at CKW and Global that I chat with, but I can't meet them in real life, and it sucks. And so there's even that element where everything just feels like it's in this weird, bizarro pause button,
right?
But you still have to keep going.
how long? Like once everybody's vaccinated, how long you're still going to be wearing the mask? When you're going to grocery shop.
I think the mask is going to be a regular thing.
Be around for a while, man.
It's a thing in Asia, right? It's not not uncommon in a lot of Asia, and especially if you do have a cold or if you have a sore throat, you wear the mask and you go out,
right?
Which we weren't doing. You would go to the grocery store with the sniffles.
Like, you would see the odd Asian person or whatever, almost mock them like, "Nice mask, buddy," and it's like, fuck. Now, oh well, you were being nice to me.
Yeah.
Like now, oh, thank you for that. It's insane, right?
I think masks are here to stay. Masks are going to be a cool fashion accessory for a little while.
I think so too. Yeah. Where do you see yourself, man, in like 5 years?
Oh man,
big question.
Yeah, you're sounding like my dad, Todd. Come on.
I know, right? What are you gonna do with your life?
I'm building toward. I don't know how old you are, but I'm also building towards Freedom 50.
I'm 47.
Okay, cool. So I'm building towards Freedom 50, or at least around 50.
Yeah, 55 for me.
Where I don't have to work. Maybe have some some properties and investments, but generally don't have to work like a 9 to 5, that type of thing. So I'm working towards that. In terms of this media thing, I don't know. Like I said, I would love to do a regular show that can take some of the burden off of doing it all yourself in terms of production and booking guests and all that stuff. So that would be ideal. I'm one of those guys that just believes that there's certain paths that are laid out for you, and yeah, you have to work towards them, but you also have to be open enough to know when there's a good opportunity in front of you. So it's hard for me to predict the future in that sense, because I'm always trying to stay open to something that, you know, maybe I'm more inclined to be doing.
Great answer. Like, dude, that's literally the answer that I would give. Like, I know where I want to get to, but I leave everything so now to be able to just live in the moment, right? Like, you do start to eventually understand that is where you should be.
Yeah.
You get older and, you know, time speeds up, and all the shit, all the things that people say to you, they're true. You just laugh at these old people. Wait till you have kids, you know, you won't believe how fast. You're like, yeah. And you have kids, you're like, holy fuck, you're right. My kid's 10. Suddenly he's 10. How did that happen?
Yeah.
What?
It's crazy. I know a few people who really charted their life with a lot of rigidity.
Yeah.
And I think it actually leads to unhappiness, where you're chasing that end goal and you're kind of avoiding everything else that might be presented to you. And you're not living in the present because everything is focused on this vision that you have. And it's good to have vision. It's good to have goals. That's not what I'm speaking against.
To have goals. Like,
yeah. It's just that openness and fluidity, recognizing that life doesn't turn out or doesn't take the course that you want it to take as hard as you might work. And in doing that, you might be missing out on some other stuff. And, you know, we talk about COVID and I think hopefully one of the lessons we all learn is that we all need human connection. And and I know I have some friends with young kids, and, you know, some of them are just like, oh, I don't know how we go back to normal, you know, being with the kids all the time. Right. Some of them with young kids aren't able to see the grandparents, you know, and they're facing grief in that way, where they're really recognizing like, oh, wow, this time flies by, and grandparents are missing out on this time. And so I hope we all come out of it with a greater appreciation for each other, a greater empathy towards each other as well, and just recognizing we're all humans trying to do our best. And at the end of the day, as as accountable as you are for yourself, we're all in this together, right? None of this works unless we're all in it together. I hope that it changes the thinking of culture. Instead of being these atomized people that you have to, you're only out for number one. We are thinking more about each other and the very finite moments that we have.
Right. And what do you think of the chances of the silver lining being that, you know, we've just shown employees or employers over the last 10, 12 months that we can do our jobs from home? Like, do you think that eventually it'll get to that point where maybe it's like you go to work a couple, 2-3 days a week at the most, and you just like, you have this is your workload. It needs to be done by Friday at 5. Okay, cool. I know where I need to do. Like, do you think
depends on the industry, and it depends on the industry, and it depends on the person.
Yeah.
Right. You still need people working retail. You still need people working in the service sector, front facing the customer.
Yeah.
For some offices, again, it depends on the personality, depends on the job role. One thing I've noticed is, and our office has kind of done this hybrid of working from home and then coming into the office. When you're in the office, there's just a lot of bullshit that gets fixed right away, because you're just going to the person's desk and you're like, hey, is this done? Yeah. As opposed to an email or, a Slack or whatever, where sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle.
Right.
So I think, there's arguments both sides, and it just depends on the job role, the personality, and then what's actually required.
Right.
So I think we probably will start to see a lot more flex time. I mean, certainly I feel like people have been banking on it. A lot of people started moving out to the suburbs because they feel like they have no need to be in the city or close to the city anymore, but they'd rather have a bigger house with a yard and all that stuff. So hopefully, some people will do that. Hopefully I know for me, I actually thrive better being in the office. It's tough for me to work from home. Yeah. It's just that I just get lazy at home. I don't know.
It's tough to find like the drive and initiative to actually get up and,
I gotta put on pants to be productive. So
I'm the same way, man. I'm just like, am I allowed to wear pajamas to BCIT now? Have we made this official?
I think if you're a tenured professor, you can wear whatever you want. I don't think it matters.
Right on. Mo, I'm going to wrap it up. I've got a voiceover session coming at 9:00 here. So, but I want to thank you, man, so much for taking some time.
Dude, my pleasure. Seriously.
And jumping on, and congrats on all the success, man, of This Is VANCOLOUR Podcast. It's absolutely incredible to watch. Just the engagement, and I think it's just awesome, man. It's really cool.
I sincerely appreciate that, and like I said, this is a trip talking to you. Like, you were such a big part of my life. It's so cool, and I've heard from a lot of people in the industry that you're doing very well. So I'm happy to hear that, and happy there's life after radio, and like I said, it's a tough business, and it makes me sad that there's guys like you or Karis that suddenly are out of it because you're so talented.
Yeah, I think, it just really depends. Like, I think that for me, if I wanted to get back in, it's not that I couldn't get back in, but could I get back in and make the money I made and like have influence on the programming? And like, I think now if I were to try to get back in, money aside, I would want to be so much more involved with what's happening at the station in all capacities.
Right.
And I just don't know if there's a spot for me to do that.
Fair enough.
So, it'll be a sunset thing. You'll catch me on 97 Magic FM in Pinterest or whatever the hell that station is.
I hope it happens. No, I think it'll be great. But no, I seriously appreciate this. Yeah. And at some point we'll get you on This Is VANCOLOUR, and we can chop it up as well.
I would love to do that. Let's do we can have distance beers, on somewhere. I'm sure we could find something.
Sure, absolutely.
Or a coffee or whatever. So
I would love that. That'd mean a lot to me.
You on Twitter? VANCOLOUR?
Yeah, at VANCOLOUR.
Now, this is color like COLOUR as we're in Canada.
The Commonwealth way, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you again, man.
Thanks, man.
We'll see you online.